Bramwell, welcome to Christians in My Soup. Lovely to have you on the show this week.
Thank you.
How are you doing at the moment?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Yeah, how's lockdown been for you?
Well, lockdown's been interesting. So Natasha and myself have been at Bible College of Wales.
Right.
So we were there for 3 months, and that was all during lockdown. So we were actually locked down in college, not allowed to leave the site at all.
Wow.
During the whole lockdown period. So it was an interesting time, but it was a real time of trusting God because we never knew what food we would get. And it became a time of really having to trust God and learn what is essential rather than what we want.
Yeah, sure.
We did that all through the period of time that we were there, and it was an amazing time. It was challenging, but it was amazing. And we got to weekends. They would provide meals for us during the week, but we had to pray that there was enough food coming in because we'd heard on the outside that there wasn't enough food.
Yeah, sure.
Various things. So we heard all the stories, but we never saw it ourselves. But when it came to the weekends, they weren't providing food. It wasn't part of what was included. They provided food for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But then it was down to ourselves, and that meant one of two things. It was either, takeaways, which meant eating into budget, which we didn't have. So it was praying for finances, or it was praying in the food. And as a dorm, so as 4 of us, we decided we were going to pray in the food. Yeah. And it arrived. It was absolutely amazing. It
Praise
would
the
turn
Lord.
up at the gate, and we'd get a phone call from somebody saying, we felt the Lord has laid this on our heart. What do you need? And I started off by saying, I don't need anything, because
Right.
I was learning that it was, needs rather than wants. And so when we said, what do you need? I was going, I don't need anything. But as time got on, the needs really did come down to, if I'm honest, the basics.
Yeah.
And when people rang and said, we feel the Lord has laid this on our heart, we would go, okay, and we can't look gift horse in the mouth. It was, the Lord really spoke to me and said, Bramwell, if somebody's going to give you money, you need to take it because it's come from me. And so that was it was the same with the food. It was a gift. It was a gift from God. So it was interesting lockdown for us.
Indeed.
And then
Indeed.
Coming out of lockdown, we had to face what the world was like.
How did you feel the first time you came out of college? You were saying earlier that you weren't allowed to leave side or anything like that. How did you feel the first time you came out of college?
Well, the first time we had to, I was lucky in a way, because whilst we were in college, Natasha fell pregnant.
Right. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, it's caused a number of humorous stories because obviously we were in lockdown and we were there studying. I can promise you that. And there's a story and a testimony to how this baby came about because it was, we were told we would never have children, so it was absolutely awesome to find out she was pregnant. So the first time I was allowed out was actually to go and get some medication, but that was strange. I got in the car. And I had to wear my gloves and I had to wear my mask because that was part of the agreement with college. I got to the pharmacy and it was 1 in, 1 out and 2 meters separated. And it was very, very strange for me. After what everybody at house had or just over 2 months, I walked into this thing. And to be honest, I was a little bit afraid because I thought, what if I do something wrong? What if I step over the mark? Or, it was an interesting one. And then I think it was about a week later, I ended up in Tesco's doing the shopping. And I arrived at about 5 to 8 before it opened. And there was this huge queue outside of 2 meters distance between everybody. And I just thought, wow, if this is what life's going to be like now, I think I'll go back to college. But, but the pace of shopping was... I loved it. I absolutely loved the pace of shopping. It was like I could walk around now with nobody sort of interfering with me or trying to grab something in front of me. And even having to queue to go up some of the aisles, that was a bit bizarre. But did you know what? Overall, I've actually enjoyed it. Now I've come out, I've really enjoyed it, but I think I've had less of it than everybody else. I had a different experience to start with.
Yeah. I sympathize when it comes to the fear thing, because the first time I left where we live was about 3 months into the lockdown situation. And it wasn't until I had the opportunity to leave site to get out and do some shopping with our colleagues that I suddenly realized how secure I'd become in the bubble in which we lived. And to step out back into what the real world had become, not the real world that I'd been used to. I can relate to having certain fears of, what if I step over the 2 meter line, and if I sneeze, have I got to go back home and get changed and have a shower and go back out again? And, so I have a great deal of sympathy there, but praise God, he's looked after us both on those first occasions, and,
Yes.
and that's good. Now, Bramwell, you talked about being in Bible college. Tell us a bit about your journey of faith. How did you come to faith?
So I was brought up going to church every week. My parents would take me to church every week. But I never knew personally what it was to have a relationship with God. I went along, I went to Sunday school, I sang in choirs when I was older in churches. I even went for ordination and training as a lay minister. And it wasn't until when my life completely fell apart that I realized that there was something missing. And what was missing was that relationship with God. I did not know what it meant at all. And I literally, my life literally fell apart. I lost a marriage, I lost a house, I lost my job. I literally lost everything that I'd been working towards. And I put everything into being a successful man rather than being a godly man. And so, one night I woke up on the bathroom floor. I was on my own in a flat that I'd been given. And I'd realized I'd drunk a whole bottle of whiskey, and I just went, Lord, if you are there, you are going to have to help me. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time that I heard an audible voice say, trust me. And it was God. And in that moment, he healed me of the alcohol issue that I had. And then he started healing me of a number of other things. I had PTSD, and God healed me of that. He healed me of anxiety and depression. And it was just a journey after that. And God really had his hand on me to pull me through all of that. And I got to a point where I just could not say that God didn't exist. And had the amazing, and some people would go, this is crazy, how can it be amazing? But I had the amazing privilege that whilst I was going through family court, the opposition side were saying to me that I'd lied about having PTSD because science says you can't be healed of it and everything. And I was able to stand in that courtroom and say, God has healed me. Wow. And they could not get their head around it at all. And in the end, they had to drop that element of the case because they were either going to say, well, God doesn't exist, or they were going to say God does exist, and they couldn't say either. So they withdrew it. And it was awesome. And as I say now, I just cannot say that God doesn't exist because he's completely transformed me.
That's absolutely amazing. Your journey went on from there. You and I met a little over 2 years ago now at Nicholson House on the South Gower. Tell us a bit about how you arrived at Nicholson and your journey to there.
So I ended up going to Nicholson House on a retreat. And it was whilst I was there, after I just was starting to get my life back together, it was whilst I was there that I met Natasha. And she was from Swindon. We were both from Swindon, didn't know each other. We'd sort of met about 2 or 3 years prior to that through a mutual friend, but that was literally it. It was like passing in the night and never saw each other again. And then we ended up at Nicholson House on this retreat. And the people that were running the retreat was Sound of Wales, and Kath Woolridge was running that retreat. And it was an amazing week where we literally just got on so well together, Natasha and myself.
Yeah.
And we went back to Swindon, and I know that she has always said to me, I thought that was it. I thought it was just a week. And I'll be honest, I thought the same. However, it wasn't. And just over a year later, we got married. And we then went back to Nicholson House for our honeymoon.
Oh,
It was
wow.
amazing how it was then Kath again running this a week retreat there with Sound of Wales for the honeymoon. Now, we never planned it that way at all. We went for a date for a wedding because it was the date we could get.
Yeah.
And it just turned out then that, and we always said we'd go back to Nicholson House for our honeymoon. It just turned out she was running a retreat again. So we ended up back there. We got a heart for the place because we'd met at the house. And then
sure.
whilst we were there, Natasha was literally offered a job. There was a job going, living in, and she was asked whether she would like to take it. So we said yes. So we went back to Swindon, and 6 weeks later, we literally sold up everything that we had in Swindon and moved to Nicholson House to live and work. And yeah, she was paid, and I became a residential volunteer. And so yeah, God again was clearly in moving us there to pick up on our life together.
Sure. Now that, as I say, that was where we met when my wife and I turned up at Nicholson House. That was where the four of us met and became friends. But it was also there, I think I'm right in saying, where you had your first serious encounter, I guess, with the Message Trust. Yeah.
So whilst we were at Nicholson House, we went on a Christian week away to a festival called Creation Fest down in Cornwall, run by Calvary Chapel. And whilst we were there, they have a number of bands, and one of the bands was Amongst Wolves, which come from the Message Trust. And we'd never heard of the Message Trust up until that moment. They then just shared about the fact that there was a podcast where I was totally impressed with their music. So I downloaded the podcast and had a listen, and they started talking about a bus that they do youth outreach on. And it was whilst we were doing that, we just decided that we were going to be youth and children's workers in the church on Gower that we were involved with, Gower New Life Church. And the Lord really showed me a vision of a bus, a double-decker bus on Gower. Now, I thought this was a crazy idea. So I came back to Gower, and I got in touch with the Message Trust because I knew they had this bus. And I said, no, the Lord's given me this vision. Is it possible to hire your bus, or how do we go about it? And I went and viewed the bus, and the sticking point was the fact they'd got no driver to actually drive the bus in South Wales at that time. So as I'm driving back from Cardiff to Gower, the Lord says to me, I want you to drive the bus. Well, I turned to my wife and my pastor's wife who were in the car with me, and I said, I think the Lord is saying, I want you to drive the bus. And they just burst out laughing.
It's nice to have that support, isn't it?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. And little did I know that when I got back in touch with Mike at the Message and said, I think the Lord is saying this, he was absolutely ecstatic about it. And, you know, we started then the journey of me learning to drive the bus so that I could bring it down to Gower and start developing the work in Gower and Swansea with the bus as well. So yeah, it was an amazing journey to getting involved with the Message Trust, to bringing the bus down to Gower and Swansea, to seeing that ministry develop in the area, and then getting involved with prayer days and going up to Manchester and all sorts of training and things. It was amazing.
Just to put the practical side of that into perspective, for our listeners and those who are watching who may not know the Gower, what was one of the biggest practicalities that you felt you needed to overcome getting a double-decker bus onto the Gower?
The biggest thing were the roads.
Right.
The roads are narrow. They are narrow country roads.
Yeah.
Once you come out of Swansea, you are literally in the country. And during peak season, it can be very, very busy.
Yeah.
and you've got overhanging trees, and you've got, there's one road that we used to call the wall of death. It was a wall that was leaning.
Yeah.
And it was, so yeah, it was a crazy adventure. And I remember going back to the church and saying, I feel the Lord is saying about this bus. And what was awesome, and I will always remember this, it was the older ladies in the church of 70, 80, who said to me, yeah, you can do that. We've seen double-decker buses on Gower before. Now, they were talking about years beforehand,
Sure. Yeah.
but they had the faith to
Yeah.
believe that it could happen again.
Fantastic.
And so that's what drove me forward, really. It was their faith and their confidence that we could do it. And it was scary. We did one trial with the bus in Gower because we were both Mike and myself were worried about it.
Yeah.
Though I have to admit, I was saying it will be all right, going, please, Lord, you have said do this. It's got to be all right.
Yeah.
And yeah, we ended up then with the bus in Gower. Literally after I had to do 16 hours worth of training on the bus with Mike, and then I was left on my own. 16 hours of training is not enough to be left on your own with a double-decker bus, and especially around Gower.
Yes, I can believe that. Now, I was blessed and privileged, as was, and to come along a couple of times to where you had the bus set up. And from what we saw, the response from the young people on the Gower was generally pretty positive. You were there every week. What's your feeling about the response of the young people on the Gower to the bus and what it stood for?
Yeah, it was amazing because when we first arrived with the bus, the first few weeks were very, very busy. I mean, the main thing the bus did is it broke broke the ice for a new church, Gower New Life Church, to really say we're here, we're a new church, and we're here in this community. And people were constantly talking about the bus. It's an orange bus, the one that we were using. So bright orange and yellow bus driving around Gower, pulling up in Pennard once a week. We got involved with the carnival at Pennard. We were asked to do that as well.
Yeah.
And so, the reception for the bus overall was really positive. Within the bus session, as the Message Trust, we always run a God spot, which is 6 to 7 minutes of a talk about faith and evangelizing to the young people. It's not a shove down the throat at all. It's very gentle. But within that as well, there's usually always a response and a prayer time afterwards. And it was very, very well received overall. It was seen as this community needs something for young people. There wasn't anything going on for young people, and that's what we built up a link with the community and spoke to the community council and said we want to provide this. When do you think would be best? They were the ones that came back to us and said Saturday. They were the ones that came back to us and said where to put it. And so we went along with that. We were working with them, and that built a great relationship as well. So yeah, it was a really, really positive experience. And everywhere we took the bus in Swansea as well was very, very positive.
Fantastic. You've hinted a little bit there about the fact that you spoke to the local council. This wasn't obviously a case of just you and the Message Trust saying we're going to bring the bus on. You needed obviously to go through the right channels. How did you find the council generally when you went to them and said this is what we want to do?
Yeah, so the community council were, at the end of the day, they wanted more. We knew there was an issue within the community for young people and engaging young people. Pennard is an amazing area. It's a lovely area. But just because it's on the Gower, it doesn't mean that it doesn't meet the same problems as everywhere else. And this was a big thing that we were trying to get through, particularly when we were trying to get hold of finances to help fund this project. The funders wouldn't fund it because they said, oh no, you're on Gower and it's an affluent area. Well, it's affluent in some ways, but it's not in every way. And I say the issues are exactly the same. So the council were really, really supportive of seeing something else for young people that was there as a support. And we moved along the whole project of saying, we're here to listen. We're not here to judge. We're not here to do anything else.
Yeah.
We're here to just listen. And young people came onto the bus. They opened up to us. They talked about family life. They talked to us about those that were doing drugs and things. So we got to really build an amazing relationship with the young people in the area.
Fantastic. And from there, your involvement with the Message Trust, the bus project has moved on now, but your involvement with the Message Trust has also moved on. How did you initially get to hear about the Eden project?
So Eden, we first found out about Eden through the Message Trust, and in fact the bus was initially called Eden Bus before it was rebranded whilst I was driving it to the Message Bus. So Eden had a link with the bus, and the bus was initially, well, it was always something to go into a socially deprived estate and offer support and youth work once a week. And that then linked us in with the Eden Project, because the Eden Project was planting a Christian community into a socially deprived area. So you go in and you live there. And that was our link into it. And both Natasha and myself absolutely fell in love with this idea. We love community. We love local mission. We have a real heart and belief in local mission. And this nation needs local mission. That's not to say that other nations don't need mission. They do need mission, but we can't do that, I believe, if we're neglecting what's on our doorsteps.
Sure.
And our calling was very much to local mission and what was happening in this nation. And so we started, say, developing a real passion for Eden. And I really felt that the Lord had said to me, you will be part of an Eden team one day. Now, I had no idea when that would be.
Right.
I just held it very loosely and thought, okay, if God can help me drive a bus, he's going to help me do this as well. And so that was how we then got involved. And Gendros Baptist Church in Swansea came on board with us to bring the bus to Swansea and the Gower. When we first started with the bus, we needed, there was a cost element to it, but the more churches we got on board meant that it could be cheaper to run. So Gendros Baptist partnered with Gower New Life Church to bring the bus down to Swansea and Gower. And that was then how I got linked up with Gendros Baptist, who had always got a heart for a socially deprived area called Blaenymaes in Swansea. They had done various one-off things. They had been doing messy church there, but their heart was really to plant a church in the area, into Blaenymaes. And when they got in touch with and started working with the Message Trust, they then also felt that actually Eden was something for them. And so our hearts sort of knitted together for Eden Blaenymaes.
Tell us from that point to now about the journey that's got you to where you are now.
So, as I say, we felt that the Lord was saying, you're going to be involved with an Eden team. We had no idea how that was going to look. We've got 2 Eden teams in Wales down towards Cardiff already, but nothing in Swansea or anywhere else in Wales. So we sort of thought, okay, what's the Lord saying in all of this? And gradually the Lord was becoming clearer and clearer and saying, I want you to go and head up this team. And so what then developed was a lot of, if I'm honest, wrestling from me. I was working or residential volunteer at Nicholston House. We were comfortable. We were youth and children's pastors at Gower New Life Church. I was on the leadership there. Life was going all right. We didn't want to rock the boat, but the Lord was just constantly saying, I want you to head up this team. And so we got to a stage where we stepped out of Nicholston House. The Lord was calling us into the community. We did that. And then I was going to say it wasn't stupidly because it was God, but I then said, to John at Gendros Baptist and Matt Walls, who heads up Message Wales, that I felt the Lord was saying that he wanted Natasha and myself to go to Blaenymaes and head up this team. And they both laughed and looked at me and said, well, that's good, because God's been telling us the same thing, but neither of us have wanted to come and tell you. So that was then how it really started to move forward, and we went, okay. And I laid out a few fleeces at the time because I still thought this is crazy. But every time I laid out a fleece, God answered it. And when it was interesting, a few people said to me, oh, well, you need to be praying for this and praying for that. And at that point, I'd already knew that God was calling me to go and develop this team with Natasha. And so everything I had asked had been met. And that was then, so we said, right, we're going to do this. Then, of course, we went to Bible college, which we thought, oh, this is taking a turn we didn't expect. Little did we know it would be locked down, so therefore Eden couldn't even start.
Yeah.
And God then equipped us whilst we were at Bible college to put us into a situation where we now know, it's clear. It is God that is wanting us to do this. We put our name down. We said, yes, we're doing it. Even to providing a house. So he provided a council house, which is what we're busy decorating at the moment.
Right.
We picked up the keys last week and we're now decorating and putting flooring down because it's been completely gutted out, so that we can move in there. And we're starting to already build relationships with the community. We've been doing that over the past year with people there, but now we're there virtually every day decorating. And we've got a great relationship already with the neighbour who's lived there virtually all her life.
Fantastic.
And so, God is constantly providing, and the church at Gendros is just constantly praying. We've seen the money come in because there's a partnership between Message Trust and the local church. They don't start an Eden team without a local church involvement.
Yeah. Sure.
And so the local church has to find a certain amount of money for the first 3 years in that partnership with the Message Trust. And then after 3 years, it becomes self-supporting as an Eden team.
Yeah.
But the money came in through donations, and we had the money. We've got the money now to start the team, even though it hasn't started yet.
Fantastic.
We have got the finances to start it. We've got the house there. And so that now means we are literally just praying about the team and praying for the team to now come on board.
Sure. Praise the Lord for that. Now, you talked about praying for the team to come on board. For any of the listeners or viewers who would be interested, can you tell us in as much detail as possible, what does it involve being part of an Eden team?
So Eden is about living a sacrificial life in a socially deprived area and sharing the gospel and building authentic community. And that's basically what Eden is. So it means moving into the area. And there are 3 types of people that will join an Eden team. There are those that are called returners. So they've already lived in the area, but they're coming back to it.
Yeah.
There's remainers, which are those that are currently living there and are Christians and want to come on board with the team. And then there are those that have no recollection of what the area is or anything like that. But the Lord just puts it on their hearts and says, I want you to move to this place. So there are those 3 types of people that come on board with a team. And what we're seeing at the moment is very much as we're moving forward, there's no remainers. There's nobody in the community at the moment that is saying that they want to be part of this.
Right.
And that's not a negative thing. That actually shows the need for this team.
Yep. Sure.
Because it's a Christian community team going into a socially deprived and sharing the love of God. And so we know that there is a need for this. And so, it's about people moving into the area or moving on to the sort of the fringes of the area, because we are aware that within Blaenymaes, it's not easy to get a property. There's a lot of council houses, or there's a lot of, houses don't come up for sale. very often in the area. So we've got an agreement that people can live just on the outskirts of it as long as they're spending their time in that community and just building relationship. And the other sort of part of being a team is that it's voluntary, and you do 1 to 2 evenings a week of supporting the team and doing something within the community base. So we're looking at how that will work. We've got a number of ideas within that. I mean, we've got one person who is already working with the drop-in centre.
Yeah.
And so she's wanting to come onto the Eden team, and potentially her husband as well now, which has been an amazing blessing. God has really been speaking there as well. So they or she will particularly carry on working, I feel, with the drop-in centre, but under that covering of Eden Blaenymaes.
Yeah.
So there's a number of opportunities within the whole team of really working with people's skills. Ultimately, it works with youth, but it is community based. So that doesn't neglect older people or families or anything. This is community based work.
Sure. You've talked about the team. How many people would you expect to be in an Eden team?
So we can start with 6.
Right.
With 6 people. So that does include Natasha and myself. So we're looking for a minimum of 4 more. But a team can expand to 12 to 16 people.
Right.
So they are then the core team, and then you get those that support it via the local church as well. But their involvement is not as heavy as the team would be. So so that's where we are with the team, is we're looking for another 4 minimum.
Yeah, sure. Now, without breaking any confidences relating to Blaenymaes specifically, what sort of things are you looking as an Eden team to achieve through the project on the estate?
So ultimately, it's seeing Christ in the community. That's what we're there for. The Lord gave me a vision of people dancing in the rain in the streets of Blaenymaes. And when I asked the Lord, what on earth is this about? He said to me, this is people dancing in the Holy Spirit. Wow. So I do believe that will be an area that will be transformed, and it will be an area that we see the Holy Spirit moving in amazing ways that hasn't been seen before.
Sure.
So that is the ultimate in terms of, we just want to see people come to know Christ, come to be saved in his name, and live out that sacrificial life themselves, that love of Christ, live that out themselves, be broken from the bondages that some of them are in, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, the social depravity that's there. We want to see those things, those chains broken in the name of Jesus there. And so that's what we want. But also there's the earthly level of things that in time we want to see an established church within Blaenymaes. So part of the whole Eden thing is, whilst it's going to be church from the word go, because church is us, we are the church, and we take that into Blaenymaes, we then want to be able to offer something in future years where people can come, because there is no church in Blaenymaes. So even if people do become saved, where are they going to go? Sure. So we know that there is a need for that as well in the next year, 2 years or so. That's the earthly side of things that we're looking at as well.
Yeah. From the way you've described it, it's quite a full-on thing to be involved with. What sort of people are you looking for to join the team?
Ultimately, people that love people and love Christ. It's not easy work. And doing mission is never easy work. Doing ministry is not easy work. Whilst in terms of the team, it is a requirement of 1 to 2 evenings a week, as I've said, you've got to be prepared for potentially people, knocking on your door or something like that. I mean, as myself, as the team leader, that will be something that both myself and Natasha will be expecting almost 24/7. Right. of course, there will be downtime. You've got to have your downtime. And as a team leader, I will be making sure that that happens for everybody. It's vital. But you are going to be part of a community that wants to build relationship. Blaenymaes itself is an amazing community. They know how to support each other. They've got so much already running. They've got a drop-in centre. They've got men's shed. They've got a football team. They've got some amazing things already in the community. What they don't have is Christ. And so that's what we need to show. We need to be Jesus on those streets in Blaenymaes. We need to be Jesus in our homes to the people of Blaenymaes. We need to welcome them in. But similarly with a team, we would not be expecting individuals in the team to take up things on their own. This is a team thing. We work together, just as Jesus and the disciples work together. We work together as a team, and that is absolutely vital. There's no mavericks within this at all. It's working together, but it's also seeing people that come with their own giftings, and we're wanting to really work with individuals with their giftings. And we've got one person who potentially could come who may have a background in rehab and drug abuse and things. That would be so much needed. We want to work with that person. We may see somebody who has got experience working with single mums. We want to work with that. We want to see, this is not about everything coming from one person. This is about a team developing and supporting one another in their giftings.
Sure. Now, for any of our listeners or viewers who may be now listening and watching and thinking, well, it sounds like a fantastic thing. I'd really love to be involved, but I'm absolutely terrified. What would you say to them?
I can understand being terrified. I was to start with. When I felt the Lord was calling me to Blaenymaes, I thought, uh-oh, this is an absolutely crazy idea. But as I've got to know the people there, and I say we're about to move into the area, they are the most amazing people that look after one another. And I think that's an amazing gift that we have been given in moving into the area. They look after one another. And if you were to come as a member of the team, you would be part of something that, is just establishing, but actually is established in the community in terms of they know us. And so we would be able to introduce anybody that came on as a team as part of us, as part of that team. And you'd get all the support that you need. You get support from us, you get support from Gendros Baptist, you get the support from the Message Trust as well. It's an amazing area, and we are in this together. We are supporting one another. And I just encourage you to pray about it and to get in touch as well, and to just test it. We've had people want to test this and are still testing it. But God is really calling them, I feel, into this, or to further along the journey with this. And it all started from stepping out of the boat and going, okay, I'm going to test this. And it could be that you test it and God says at the end, no, it's not, but you've trusted him within it. And the trust and the faith increase through it, we've seen with other people, has just been amazing.
We'll come back to how people can get in touch in just a moment, but you've talked about the support being offered not just by other folk within the team, but by the local church. That kind of goes without saying, I guess. Can you tell us a little bit about what that support from the Message Trust looks like? Yeah,
so you've got Message Wales, who they run prayer days once a month. And so one of the things that as a team, potentially, if you were free, you come down to Cardiff and be involved with that. Also, there is some support, I think it's every other month, as a team that's put together by the Message Trust. And then twice a year, we go away as a team to Manchester to be part of a bigger network. So Eden has got around about 50 teams across, well, internationally now. They've got one in South Africa
Uh-huh.
as well, and they're looking to plant one in Germany as well, I think it is now.
Wow, fantastic.
So it's an internationally recognised missionary project now, and we join up twice a year to just share stories and support one another, and share with what's going on, what's our struggles, what's our praise reports, and it becomes a wider family. You have that initial family there in Blaenymaes, but then you've got this wider family with the Message Trust and Eden.
Fantastic. So for those who are now thinking, yep, this might be something I can follow up and become involved in, how can they get in touch and how can they follow that up?
So there were two ways. The first way is to go directly to Message Trust yourselves. If you go to joineden.org and their website, that will talk you through how to get involved. And they will then send out a prayer diary. They will give you a phone call. There's then an application form to fill out and an interview to test the whole thing, to make sure that this is God that is calling. So it's very clear in terms of God is calling people into this. The other way, and whilst you still have to go through the application and the Message Trust, if people wanted to get in touch directly with me via email to talk about what it looks in particular to Blaenymaes, then they can contact me on engageincommunity. That's engageincommunity@gmail.com. And then I'm happy to have a conversation and then point them in the direction of Eden and Join Eden themselves.
Fantastic. And listeners and viewers, don't panic if you didn't pick up those 2 points of contact. I'll make sure that they go in the show notes for the podcast when that goes out. And if we're going to use the video, I'll leave that to Bramwell to put in the show notes for the video as well, to make sure that you've got that opportunity. Bramwell, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today and learning not just about yourself, but also about the Eden Project in general and about the project specifically that yourself and Natasha are going to be involved in. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
I think the only thing I would say is that if during this time you have felt the Lord is nudging, as I said earlier, explore it. It's not a crazy idea. It's not something that is scary. It's an amazing opportunity to show Christ in a community where there is no Christ-centered community at all. It's an opportunity to do what the church is there to do, to support one another, to love one another, to engage in community. So I would say just test it. Even if it's the very, very smallest nudge, let's test it and let's walk this journey together. And there's nothing lost. If the Lord then says, no, this isn't for you, that's absolutely fine.
Fantastic. Bramwell, thank you very much indeed for your willingness to come on and talk. Thank Natasha for her willingness to let you come on and talk. And may the Lord bless you both incredibly as you move on with this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.